always mean to fade it to black or fade it out, but clearly I am no professional. But anyway, hello everybody. Welcome back to the Wives Club. For anybody new here, hi, I am Maggie. You may know me for my cooking channel, but the Wives Club was started in 2021 when I booked a session with the late great Kevin Samuels. It wasn't for me. I am happily average, but I always felt convicted whenever he said, "Where are the older women to teach the young?" So he allowed us to respond to his videos in his Patreon, and we now continue every week for you all. Lucy is a moderator on Kevin's channel. Lucy, please introduce yourself.
Hi, Maggie. Hi, everyone. Yes, I was a moderator while Kevin Samuels used to do his live streams either on YouTube and Instagram. And I learned so much about how he was such a specific, he took a content and he specifically tied it up to either some quote or some concept. And and the reason I love Kevin is because he allowed me to think a little more about the value that our men have in our world and around us. And every time I hear these women saying, I just saw a TikTok, I think, of, interviews on the streets, interviewing these young girls, and they asked them, do we need men in the world? And absolutely every single one of them said, no, we don't need men in the world. And in my mind, I'm thinking, how do these girls think like this? And of course, it goes back to all of these entertainment, the school and all of these things, brainwashing our young girls to think that we do not need each other. Anyway, the episode today is going to be fascinating to see, to analyze. And I have a channel. Sorry, I have a channel. I used to teach Spanish, but now the content is focused more on elegance, femininity, and issues that affect women over a certain age. And I think the next topic I have two possible topics that I'm going to present. It's either going to be feminism and the occult, or yes, it's very scary, guys. Or there's a concept that's coming that somehow I found it came up in my feed about these women complaining about being hospice wives. And it's these women saying that if you get married to an older man, you're going to be taking care of that older man. And of course, to me, that riled me up because that's not the way things go. Anyway, so I'm trying to figure out which content I'm going to present on Monday. So stay tuned. Anyway, let's move into the episode today.
I love Lucy, and we have a comment. I see you all coming on in. Hello, Trad Guy Travels. Lucy, would you like to let us know what's different?
Yes, my hair, I got it cut, and my husband was not too happy about it. But the good thing is that it'll grow 2 weeks more and it'll be a little longer. Oops. I think I needed it because the ends are healthier, but men don't understand about that stuff.
You're right. I see Fem Gems in the chat. Y'all are getting it. Yes, I know. Men like our hair, ladies. They like us. They like what they like. And we believe in traditional gender roles, and we believe in giving our men what they like. But yes, when I get a trim, he's like, "Why do you have to keep doing that?" So, we understand, men. We will make sure to show up as feminine. What did Next Level say? He said, "Welcome to Feminine Fridays." I absolutely love it. Fem Gems loves the hair. Yes, Lucy's hair always looks gorgeous. All right, but we prioritize our men. So thank you all for the compliments. And Lucy, you look lovely as always. Yes, gonna get in trouble for that summer cut. Does have a nice little bounce to it. Okay, focus. Tonight and every night we are here on the Wives Club, we respond to a Kevin Samuels video. And I always link it in the description and you all can see the title, Did I Make a Mistake Leaving Him? Ooh. So this is a clip from a longer live stream with a woman who called in. She was 38, never married, no kids, but how many times have we heard this before? She had had two and almost three engagements. Y'all know we have talked about these women collecting engagements like infinity stones. It does not count because the bottom line is, I'm going to tell you like my man told me, women don't turn down engagements from men that they respect and admire. All right, so I have my clips here. I know Lucy has her notes. We're going to go through and give our reaction from our own lived experience. Lucy and I both have long-term relationship and marriage experience. So we're going to speak from our own lived experience, but we always like to hear what you all say. And we'll go for about an hour and then we'll let you all have your evening. Anything to add before we get started, Lucy?
Like next level said, engagement queens. And again, we've talked about this. For me, at my 57, almost 58 years of living, the only engagements that I was asked for were my previous marriage and this current marriage. So these women are just allowing these important events in their lives to pass them by, waiting for that next best thing. And they don't realize that that next best thing is probably not going to be there.
Absolutely, ladies. All of us have an expiration date, if I will, if you really want to be competitive for marriage. And like my man has told me, I've talked to Thane, who is a huge sponsor on this channel, multiple times. You only get one, maybe two if you're lucky, real chances at marriage, love, marriage, relationships. It's not something that another train is coming in the station. All right. So I'm looking down at my notes. I have them here, or my clips. So the episode starts with this lady who had come in, and they were talking about her dating woes at 38, and there were some specifics in there about making this caliber of man wait longer than this caliber of man. The bottom line is that he told her, what you're doing is not working. A lot of times, women read these books and they get this piece of advice and then they try this piece of advice and they just have this like throw spaghetti against the wall strategy. And all that does, ladies, is waste your time. And so he started by challenging her. He said, you're 38. You're already at geriatric pregnancy, which when he asked her if she wanted children, she was one of those that was like, I'm open to it. Honestly, the truth is no, but you have to understand that most men, a lot of men marry because they want a legacy and they want that in their own household. So you're already making it a harder sell. But he was asking her, why are you playing all of these games at 38? It shouldn't be this complicated. So he started by really challenging her approach. What would you add, Lucy?
Yes, and it's really interesting how he used to try to pin them down on an answer. And woman after woman, they go around and they don't answer the question that he was asking. So she went into something about having morals, and she's looking for a man that has a specific kind of morals. But then he goes, well, do you determine a man's morals based upon on who men are? Are you Christian? And then he asked her so additional questions about her religion, and he tried to pin her down, and she would not answer the question. He said something about because morals are just right, and morals are right and wrong, and that has nothing to do with seeing a woman. So it was really, I mean, the conversation was just back and forth about him trying to have her understand his perspective as a man, but she was in her own emotional side of trying to justify the two or three important relationship that she had had up until her 38 years old.
Yeah, so I want to park here for a minute and unpack something that Lucy said. And, we run the finishing school. We teach women about elegance, etiquette, femininity. I do consults and coaching outside of YouTube. we are both women of faith, but we don't lead with that. It's, to each their own. But I love how Kevin used whether or not she was a Christian in this instance. And I'm going to explain to you all why. My man, simple Southern man, but very direct. We were talking one day and he said something that I was kind of almost offended by. And I just kind of know to like, don't respond, don't have a knee jerk reaction, just kind of understand and listen. And he was like, yeah, it's obvious. You women don't have a purpose. And I was like, okay. But I let him continue. What he meant was, if you look at modern women today, we are flailing, ladies. He said, this is why you have this social media. This is why you have women, day drinking, the medication, the all this stuff that we're doing, these big degrees and jobs that we think are careers. We're doing all this stuff because we are not on our purpose. And in this episode, Kevin asked this woman, are you a Christian? She said yes. And he said, well, if you're a Christian, your purpose is your man. Because if you believe that, we were created to be a helpmate to our man. And that to me was kind of like, it was an amazing way to kind of drill down the point. At 38, you're out here doing whatever you want to do and not being on your purpose, which you say you should be. So those of you all who consider yourself Christians, for me, this is really helpful. You can take it as offensive, but I love that it really kind of focuses on, okay, I'm able to do a lot of things, big degrees, big jobs, YouTube, all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, I was created to be a wife and mother. I love nurturing. I love taking care. I love teaching. I love creating a warm and welcoming home. That is who I am. That is who I was created to be. So if you call yourself a Christian, ladies, and you're doing all these other things and there is no man in sight, you can ask yourself, are you on your purpose? Or like my man said, do you even have a purpose? So I wanted to unpack that. And Lucy, did you want to add anything before we move on?
I loved how you explained that portion. And it also goes back to why some of these religions were created. We have strayed away from those specific areas that kept us aligned, that kept us looking for a purpose, whether it's, Muslim, Catholic, Protestant. There was always a purpose for the woman to be the helpmate to the man. My purpose is my husband, my house, and making his living as peaceful as possible. And you know what? And that is something that every morning I think about. I thank God for my life, for everything else. But ultimately, my purpose is to keep my husband as happy as possible. And it seems that these women do not have that specific goal. When you set up a goal of what it is that you're going to be, when you're 50, 60 years old, these women, like Maggie said, they're flailing because they don't have that duty to be the wife and the mother and, to keep the family together. So it's fascinating. Thank you for explaining that. Sometimes I get lost with all the back and forth and my ESL. Sometimes it's like, okay, so what does that mean? But you explained it very well, that concept about Christianity and how it all puts us into having a purpose in life.
Absolutely. So, ladies, receive that if you will. We're not telling you you have to do anything. We're not telling you to believe anything or not. You are free to choose what you want to. Over here, we believe in traditional relationships. And the ultimate takeaway with that one, and then I'll move on, is that if you do consider yourself a Christian or a woman of faith, it should be a relief for you, because now when you feel all of the trappings of life and all these, shiny new toys that are out there, you can center yourself on who you are and what you're supposed to be doing. Because, like Lucy, I think of every day, and I've been in a long term relationship, but I think every day, how can I be better for him? How can I show up in a way that respects him? How can I make sure that I'm making his life easier? What can I do to follow up on what he's already told me one time so he doesn't have to say it again? I think of that every day. I want to be the best version of myself for him. All right. So hopefully that was helpful, ladies. We'll move on. The other thing that Kevin admonished her about was how complex women have made the relationship process, and just basically finding a man young, building something, and then getting on with your life. If you watch this episode, and thank you, Erin Laura, for dropping the link, you will hear this woman talk about, I'm an educator. She had an engagement to one guy that she said she wasn't compatible with. Then she had an engagement to another guy that was her best friend, but she found, oh, excuse me, I think what she said with him is he didn't challenge me intellectually. It was all of these, I'm going to say it, nonsense reasons. And now you find yourself 38 and alone. And he said, back in the past, and I know nobody wants to go back there, but we would be married. Lucy and I were both married in our 20s, early 20s, mid 20s. You would be married and living your life. It is unheard of to be, a mature woman and still kind of acting like you've got all of this time. Because what he said is, ladies, at 40, we become more difficult. It's just true. As we get older, we're kind of more set in our ways. We're a little bit more stubborn. We have to work really hard to want to learn new things. Look around you if you don't believe me. The older women in your life, are they more agreeable, or are they a little bit more, ornery? So that's what men look at when they're selecting. So if you delay this and you wait too long, life happens to all of us. So that gusto that you have when you're young and you think it's always going to be that way, believe me, you will age like all of us. You can age gracefully, or you can find yourself taking another trip around the mountain. What would you add, Lucy?
Yes, and I think also he mentioned something about when you're young and you limit yourself into giving intimacy to just one man, you're not going to know whether you missed something or not. Because I think one of the things that she said for one of the men was that he wasn't exciting her in that part of the relationship. So what he said is like, okay, so you're looking for somebody that makes you feel great in the intimacy. And I'm thinking, and I do agree that, the less you give yourself to men, you're not going to be looking for that, experience that the world is going to, it's going to be an explosion of all of these things, because you don't know better. When you're that with that one man, that's all you know. You're not going to be searching for that additional thing. And it seems to me that at this point, unfortunately, with modern women, they have gone through one after the other, that they start comparing on who did it better, that it gets to a point that they're going to be 40 looking for that one that never gave them the thrill that they're looking for. So it's so important to remember that, your body is your temple. Your what you're giving to that man should be special, and you shouldn't be giving it away just like that, because then you're going to find yourself 40 years in, and then what is it that you're going to give that is special to that special man when you find him at 40?
If he will have you, which honestly, ladies, I talk to, and I don't take this lightly, I talk to a lot of the men who are in this space. Sometimes they're present, sometimes they're watching from the clouds. If you could hear the raw, unvarnished, what they think about most women like post 30, it would really hurt a lot of our feelings. So hear us and hear us well. If you think you want relationship, you definitely need to prioritize it, because it's just not going to get any easier. And don't let somebody's one time at band camp or one celebrity that makes it look like, oh, it's still possible for you. It's not. Believe me, it's not. Okay. The other thing I do want to talk about what Lucy said, in this intimacy space, and I know we're in this hookup culture and people think, oh, it's just like a handshake now. It's not. And ladies, we weren't built to be able to have that amount of like damage and trauma with all these random people. Again, you can do whatever you want to, but I think when you marry young, or if you choose to save yourself or at least limit that, then you don't have this cornucopia of experiences. And like Lucy said, you're looking for the next best thrill because it's human nature to want to compare. And that's one of the things that he challenged her. He said, your reason for saying that this man was not intimately compatible with you, he said, that's a trash reason. Now, you can argue me down if you want to, but when you think about marriage and long term, of course, you want to be attracted to your man. He wants to be attracted to you. And I think when you learn each other and you do that, you share that union together, then it's like you figure out what works for the other person. And that's something beautiful and special just for you too. You're not out here looking for anybody who can just, unlock the door. And he said that, for virgins or women who save themselves, you don't have this, I'll just say it his words, that sexual compatibility argument because you're still open and you're still willing to mold yourself, which I believe we should. If you believe in something traditional, adapt to your man and he adapts to you. So we've said it, do what you want to, but you're going to make it, sorry, you're going to make it harder for yourself if you have too many experiences. Save it for your husband. I'll say that. Okay. The other thing that he said, ladies, I know we talked about this. I can't remember what stream, but I know there's a trend going on, like with the soft guy era and whatever is happening. But he said if men treated women the way we treat men, we would really regret some of the things that we've put out there. So, like her reason for why she accepted a proposal and then broke it off. Women have these websites, don't date him, girl. Imagine if you had a reputation and people had your face and what you did plastered up there. Your, reckless behavior. We're starting to see now the men have had it. I'm sorry. The men have had it and they're not, they're what is it, giving us a dose of our own medicine. So just be very careful when you are careless with someone's intentions. Karma comes around to all of us. We don't get away with anything. So I always say you can accept with grace or you exit with grace. But treating, a man's investment and his time just kind of like, yeah, I know I said yes, but I changed my mind. I have had one proposal and one marriage. I hope to marry again one day, but it's not up to me because men decide who becomes their missus. What would you say, Lucy?
I agree. And he also got into the point where she talked about having the men that she's now meeting wait for that intimacy when she has given it to other men easily and freely. So now she's going to have at 38 play that game of waiting until things, until she feels it's the right time. Oh, what did Trad say? A guy sued a whole Facebook group of women for defamation. Yes, I think they have that. There's a Facebook page that's called "Are You Seeing This Man or Are You Dating This Same Man That I'm Dating?" And they all piled up on him, and he did sue them. And I think that they're going through that right now. So again, this social media thing. I was watching something earlier today where there was a woman crying and giving the history of why she got divorced. And in my head I'm thinking, does she not realize that by doing that, yeah, she's getting validation from someone, but on the other hand, you're embarrassing your ex-husband sharing all that nonsense in social media. So anyway, that's a different thing. So yeah, he got into Why should you have a man wait for something that you've given freely to other men?
That is so true. And ladies, you're not fooling anyone. I have had this conversation with a 40 plus year old woman who got tired of running the streets. And now you found, the one that your words is the best thing you've ever had. And you want to play games with him. That's not what you want to do. I saw this comment from Erin Laura. I just wanted to bring this one up. I've known a few women who say they finally found that excitement, but now they're unhappy with everything else about him and the life he leads. They want the boring guy back, but it's too late. Yeah, like I said, ladies, you don't have unlimited chances. So choose wisely. Have someone that you respect, an older man, if you have in your family, help you vet. Because when you think about marriage or long term, now, if you're here for just, fun times, then that's one thing. But if you want a real relationship, then you are going to have to choose the character and the quality traits that are going to last over a lifetime. All right. So the other thing that Kevin was talking about is, this woman was talking about her job or whatever. The man didn't teach her anything. And he said, what did because her parents are still together, what did your dad teach your mom? What does a man have to teach you except for just being a man? He said that in our community, women are married to the system. Like, our husband is this job that we think that we have. And I'm going to tell you, you're building someone's family. I suggest you work on building your own family. But if you want to forego relationship for that career that you think is so important, you're going to get to a point where you realize, man, I did all that, and what you receive in return a lot of times is not what you think it was. And then it's too late to be competitive for the kind of man that you want, because you didn't prioritize it, and we don't have unlimited opportunities. What would you add, Lucy?
And speaking of the boring thing, this is so fascinating to me how we women think that consistency and having a man be here for us is boring. The last thing I want is my man to be giving me all of these. But again, I'm an introvert. So let's think about that. All of these wonderful things that, that it's okay to be home and, have date night at home, cook for him, watch, a show and whatever. And that to us is happiness. When you get older, you start cherishing those times together because again, your time in life is getting shorter. So you have to treasure all those times. And like Aaron Lawrence said, that woman found her exciting guy, but everything else about him, it's horrible. So now she wants that boring life because she knew that consistency and that guy that was there for better, for worse, is going to be there no matter what. And unfortunately, they see on TV these Atlanta housewives, these Beverly Hills housewives, this make believe life that the men are going to take you to all of these places without being realistic about how the world works.
Yeah, such a good point. I see David Villar in the chat. He says, I embraced being the boring guy because the forms of entertainment are boring. The housewives, hip hop, and gossip. And ladies, we just have to understand that, entertainment is just that. It's entertainment. It's not real. And I think, young people, especially, but in this culture, we think what we see on these devices and on, out there is real. It's not. It is put on to entertain you, to be an escape, maybe to make you purchase something. But if you hitch your wagon to that and think, oh, if my guy doesn't take me out every, meal, if he doesn't buy me expensive things. I had a conversation with my man today. We both have teenagers and, we're separate until the kids are all up and out. And I just told him, I said, the older I get, I'm looking forward to quiet dates at home, home cooked meals, me bringing you a lemonade when you're in the garden doing whatever you're doing, like little hobbies and projects. Those are the things that I actually look forward to now. And I am the extrovert. I love being around and being a jumping jelly bean, but I'm really looking forward to growing old gracefully and having those simple, consistent, boring routines in place, because life in and of itself is fast paced, it's competitive, it's all of this stuff that we live. And women, one of the things that Kevin Samuel said is that we don't understand men. The life that they live, they're on guard all the time out there. They don't want to come home, or they don't want to be around their woman, and it's another level of stress. So anything that you can do to bring peace to the home, to simplify your list of demands, to just be agreeable, to say yes, to save yourself for the man who really deserves it and give him everything, instead of wasting your youth, your beauty, and your body on somebody that you knew had no intentions for you, and then you're damaged and you're no good for the man that you say that you want. So a little bit of tough love, but I think it's needed. I just found another quote. So Kevin was admonishing her again, and he asked her a question. He said, "When you were a little girl and you thought about your future, did you imagine yourself being 38, never married, and no kids?" And he said, modern women have this thing where I don't want to settle. I don't want to settle. Sidebar, ladies, the men aren't getting everything they want either. You're not the only one who's giving up some things. That's why it is a relationship. Both are sacrificing. But anyway, this I am not willing to settle means you are settling to die alone. And that one really got me, because we're holding on for this make believe life that's not going to exist. But what you realize is you're like, okay, I won't have anybody. I'll just be by myself. And we weren't built for that, ladies, especially as we age. What would you add, Lucy?
I agree. And the fact that she thinks that she can settle all on her own. Are you going to be settling? Think about that. When you're 65, 70, all by yourself, you're going, like he says, you're going to have your poor dog. Probably you're going to be talking to the dog because you don't have anybody else to talk to. The poor dog is probably not going to want to be there. He's going to say, please let me out and I'll never come back, because you're supposed to have that person next to you to just be there. And of course, you're not going to be nagging him or telling your worries or your troubles. Again, our troubles as women are nothing compared to the trouble that men go out there and come back. Their focus is to be our providers, protectors, and all of that stuff. Our worries are, I can say, that are much more emotional than realistic, than what the men really truly worry on an everyday, day-to-day basis. It's interesting when he said, dating is getting with a man so complex for modern women. He goes, you mean to tell me that you were engaged twice? Somebody dropped to the knee, presented a ring in public, and asked you for their hand in marriage. And she decided to break off the engagement. So he asked her, so who broke the engagement? Of course, she went around and around to answer the question. And he asked her who broke the engagement. And she said that it was her both times. And he said, why did you take the ring when you knew that this wasn't going to be something that you were going to follow through? You accepted the ring, but you weren't sexually compatible, and you still accepted the ring. So those are things that are so strange, because when it gets to the point where a man gives you the ring, everything else has been put in place. So that's so weird for me, how you said no to one the same thing happened to the second one, and you still went through that process to then break off the engagement. That to me is for me is heartbreaking, because if you're with somebody that you love, how are you going to say no to that man? It's hard to relate to.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've said it before and I will say it again. Ladies, if you are confused, the purpose of dating is to determine if this is a match for marriage or long term. It's not to just, collect rings. It's not to get toys and trinkets and trips. It's not to, make your friends jealous. It's not to post on social media. It's none of that. A man takes, proposing very seriously. One of the statistics, and you all know Kevin was the king of statistics, he said in our community, 60% of marriages end in divorce. 80% of those divorces are initiated by women. We're not we're not happy. Towards 60%. I keep clicking on it. 80% of divorces are filed by women. Okay. We're not happy. Everything, like if something is not perfect, we have this vision in our mind, this Disney vision in our mind that somebody told us a real relationship is supposed to be exciting all the time. He's supposed to make me happy all the time. He's supposed to buy me things and take me places. That's not who men are. Yes, you will get that in time, but expecting that, you're always going to end up disappointed. And so, if that's what you need to be happy, good luck. Kevin always says, I'm not going to fault you for what you want, but that's not realistic. He said, in our community, we are the least married and the most engaged. And like Lucy said, ladies, I tell the ladies that I consult, again, the purpose of marriage is for, I'm sorry, the purpose of dating is for marriage or long term. You should not continue to date someone if you don't see them as husband material. If you cannot happily submit to this man, if you can't see him leading and you being a helpmate for him, again, if you believe in traditional, then you need to exit with grace. But I think it really says a lot about your character or lack thereof if you allow a man to believe that he really has found a wife, and then he goes through the time and the expense of proposing to you, embarrassing himself, sinking his resources into a ring that shows that he's a provider, and then you say yes, and then you say no for some shallow reason. I'm not going to say it, but sometimes, and this is the optimist here, but sometimes I just believe some women are just supposed to be alone. Like, I want everybody to win, but the more and more I talk to women, sometimes I'm like, you're not built for relationship. Like, you don't have what it takes. And she said that she found it interesting that the men that she turned down go off and marry somebody else. Well, of course, because they were actually looking for a wife. So if you're out here playing games, you will start to look around and you're going to see other people like coupling up and going off and living their life. And that little strategy that you had that you thought you were winning, you're going to find yourself, like Lucy said, talking to your dog. Because according to Kevin in this episode, we modern women, our husbands are the system, our jobs, these big whatever we think we have, and our children are these dogs or cats if you're a cat herder. So just be mindful of that. What would you add, Lucy?
I think he also went into, he asked her if she wanted to have kids, and she talked about adopting children without being in a relationship. And then he said, so you're going to be a single parent and you're going to purposely go into doing something that you know gives children statistically the worst outcome. So again, that he's going back into the modern woman's mind, that they're thinking about themselves only, because that's something. I have a child, I'm going to adopt a child, and I'm going to be a single mother. And then, but you don't think about the repercussions that that's going to have for the children that you're going to have. They're going to see you struggling all throughout. They're going to see your bad moods because they don't have that helping someone to help you in that family environment. So again, you're putting that child into a situation that really they shouldn't have. So that was interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a couple other notes that I took that Kevin was admonishing her about. Um, he asked her, why does a man need to be great? And ladies, we need to take some time and really think about this. Why do we have such high, almost unreachable standards for men? But for ourselves, we just want to show up and accept me as I am. And then you say, "But I'm a good person." Really, there's a pride that's there because you think you are entitled to the man that you want. Like Kevin used to say, you can just go pick him off the high value tree. I've shooed away all these other men because they didn't meet my list of requirements, which means you think you're better than men. You're not really looking for your equal because we have this overinflated sense of our value and what we think we deserve, which means a lot of us end up alone. He said that a lot of modern women don't have humility. And I will say, if you want to be a feminine woman, humbleness is a huge part of that, being grateful and being gracious. And again, if it's not a match, there's a way to say that and exit with grace, but you don't just keep dragging something on while it's benefiting you. And yes, that means you may have to spend some time alone, but your character and how you treat people should matter more than just being able to say, "Oh, I've got this calendar. I'm going on multiple dates per week." When you're wasting somebody's time and resources, that's going to come back to you. The other thing that he said is, ladies, if this is the hill that you want to die on and you want to plant your flag and say, "I'm not going to settle, I'm not going to take less than whatever," no one is going to stop you. I think a lot of women get surprised when that phone stops ringing, the men stop, approaching. I was talking to Brandon Eljet earlier this week, and I asked him about modern women that were really headstrong, like, why doesn't anybody help her? You see, she's about to go off the cliff. And he said, "Maggie, I'm going to tell you, when we see a woman that's moving that way, really defiant, you can't tell her anything, she doesn't listen, we allow her to crash out. You will get to whatever destination you're getting to. We don't care if you get there or you get lost. We don't care if you get there and you're injured. We don't care if you don't arrive at your destination, but you have shown us you don't value our opinion. You don't want to listen to us. You don't think we're useful." Like Lucy said, she saw a TikTok clip where women are saying like men are useless. And as a boy mom, that's hugely offensive to me. But ladies, that pendulum is going to swing the other way. And you're going to be one of these women when you're older, more feeble, more dependent. You don't want to get up at 6 a.m. and have that long commute and be out and late meetings and all that. And you're going to be looking for someone to rescue you from yourself. And I am telling you now, the men remember. And they remember how you dismissed them and how you said they were boring and how you didn't have the time to show common courtesy. And it's coming back to haunt you because they're not going to rescue you, and it's already evident that trend has started. So heed the warning, ladies. What would you add, Lucy?
That's so funny because remember, I think it was Michael P. Jordan who was being interviewed by this journalist, and he remembered that in school that person has said that he was lame or something, and men remember, how they have their brains, their memories, they have elephant minds. They remember, especially when you have been unkind to them. And that's why I've always, ever since I can remember, I always thought what you give, you get. If you give kindness, if you're kind to the man that you love or the man that you care for or the man you date, that kindness is going to show up with the perfect man in the future. So again, it doesn't hurt to always think kindness before you start discarding those men that you think you are settling for.
I agree. I'm loving the comments. Thank you all so much for all of the engagement. This was a very rich episode and it's in the description. It was about 30 minutes, so I encourage you all to watch it if you have time. The other thing that Kevin said, and this is where you get the wisdom of older women. I'm 48, Lucy's 57. Kevin was, I believe, 52 or 53 when he passed. And I love when he would ask younger women, what do you want life to look like when you're 40, 50, 60 plus? And I remember being young and headstrong. I'm a reformed modern woman. I've told you all that myself. But you think life's always going to be that way. And a lot of times for women, it is a shock and they can't believe that I'm here. So let me tell you, we all start to age. You can absolutely age gracefully, but like Kevin said in this episode, your bodies are going to start to break down. And so these women that are saying men aren't necessary, the other thing that Kevin was trying to implore her is that relationships in the beginning, you think it's just fun. We're, spending time together, we're building a life together. But as we age, relationships become a necessity. Why do you think we have the golden girls and people making like these pacts? Like, if I'm not married by this age, I'm going to go back to my first love or whatever it is, because nobody wants to age alone. And young people, hear me. I know you're young and strong. We used to be one time too, but life happens to all of us. The other thing that Kevin told this woman, 38, never married, no kids, but with multiple engagements, he said relationships are reflective. And the common denominator in all of these failed relationships is you. And that can be a hard, bitter pill to swallow. But ladies, everywhere you go, there you are. So if you continue to have these same outcomes, you're going to run out of opportunities to blame. Oh, he's a narcissist. Oh, he had this type of personality. Oh, this was wrong with him. Well, what about you? What have you learned? Even if a relationship doesn't work out, you should be able to learn what you did right, what you did wrong, and apply it in the next relationship, get better, and then move on. He asked her, have you gone to therapy? And if I could, I would play that clip. The look on her face, her actual words were, therapy? To find a man? It was preposterous to her that there could be anything wrong with her. She was so used to blaming everyone else for why this didn't work out. And she's just kind of sitting on her perfect little perch. And when I find the man that checks off my list of 32 things, maybe then at the ripe old age of 40 plus, I'll consider going through with a proposal. And the arrogance, the absolute arrogance behind that thought. So he told her at the end, ma'am, maybe you should just get a mental checkup, because ladies, it's not normal to have a string of failed relationships. I have had 2 long-term relationships, one a marriage, another long-term. We are not built to take that repeated damage and trauma, because you can believe what you want to, but when we are with a man, our bodies naturally want to make that a relationship. So when you go out of order, then you find yourself acting like, oh, it doesn't matter. But honestly, it does. How many women have we found in their later years crying on TikTok because they didn't prioritize it when they were younger? What would you add, Lucy?
That was awesome that you pointed out, because I'm going to show you in my notes. The relationships are reflective right here. It is true. You are the total of all the actions, of all the behaviors, of all the choices that you've made up to that point. And the fact that she took the question about going to mental health means that she lacks the ability to be introspect, to say, is it, I think there's a red thing that says, am I the a-hole, am I the jerk? So the ability to say, maybe I'm the one that needs help, and not every external person or excuse that you give, that because you haven't been able to get that perfect relationship that you want up to 40 years of age. I think another thing, let me see, another thing that he said was, oh, something about, anyway, he said something about there's a whole industry that benefits of modern women being single and alone. And and I agree. I mean, the workplace needs all of these single women to work up until the day that they can't, to then replace you with a younger one that's willing to work for less and that's willing to learn quicker and is not set in her ways. So again, this is, listening to Kevin Samuels, it's such a, it was such an eye opener for me, because again, it was the perspective of a man about modern life and modern women.
Absolutely. So, my last few points as we wrap this one up. I love what Lucy said about the workforce. And there's nothing wrong with working. Lucy and I both work, but we prioritize relationship with the kind of work that we do and make sure that our men are taken care of first before somebody else's man, your boss, whoever. But Kevin said that marriage and long-term relationships are not promoted in our community and in modern women. There is almost this preference for being, you think you can be just like a man. We are not. I will say it until I can't say it anymore. We are not equal. We are equally valued, but we are very different. And I think our differences are beautiful. But when you fall into that, I'm just going to work and do everything a man can do, believe me, there is this perception or this image that's promoted of whether it's the Boss Babes, or he talked about like Sex in the City, Living Single, these shows that almost glorify single women doing their thing, driving their baby Benz, living in a high rise, doing whatever they want to do. But what they don't show you is the 40-year-old women that are miserable, the women that cannot believe that their life has turned out like this, that are sick and tired of working and these long meetings and all of the things that go along with it as we age, and it's getting harder to you're not interested in it the way that you were singing that company line before. He said a lot of modern women, something I struggle with, are overweight. They're childless because they waited too long. They didn't prioritize having a family. And men want a legacy. And ladies, men want their own legacy. That's just who men are. So if you think, you're one of those women that I can take it or leave it, or I'll just adopt, that's going to be a really hard sell to a man who wants his own children. And the last thing I'll say is, we require of men what we can't even do for ourselves. We have this vision that a man's going to take us out. We're going to be doing this and that and traveling here and there. But when you look at a lot of women without a man, you're lucky if you go out to eat maybe once a week. Why is that not acceptable when you have a man? You don't go on these, jet setting trips, but when you have a man, he's supposed to be able to fly you all over the world. So really think about what you're requiring. Humble yourself. Find a man. Have a few 2 to 3 deal breakers. Anything other than that, you're going to build a life together. There is no perfect relationship. Believe me, there is no perfect marriage. So if you see anybody that looks like they have it all together, believe me, everybody works with something, but it's a decision and a commitment that we make, and it's better in the long run, because then you'll be at that age where you're like, oh man, we got over the rough patch, but we're here now and we're looking forward to growing old together. And I think that is the accomplishment that you can really be proud of, or not. You can work like a man until you're 65. I'm not going to fight you. And neither is Kevin, and neither are the men in the community. What would you add, Lucy?
Yes, and I watch these different things, social media, and but I go outside and I think that there's hope when you're outside. I still have that thinking that there are a group of men and women that really truly want to come together and become that family, become that husband and wife, and a focus on creating a society, because society starts with the family environment and so forth. Um, One of the things that he said was 3 out of 4 women will die alone. And he was telling her, you are fortunate because at least you have had men that you've had opportunities to be with. And it's not like you still don't have opportunities. But what he's saying was to get a mental checkup and not blow the opportunities that she currently has, because a woman like herself, who's always had opportunities, is going to be a real shock when the opportunities stop and the opportunities see that. You gotta get Lucy. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Jesus. It's it's the boy. I think they're both here. Sorry. These big dogs, they snore. I don't even pay attention. See, I'm like those women that don't hear the smoke detector in the background. Mine are the dogs snoring. So, anyway, so those who have had opportunities in the past, is going to be a real shock when those opportunities start becoming lesser and lesser, and you see themselves with 2 snoring dogs in the home, talking to them instead of that loving husband that you could have had 20 years ago.
Absolutely. I didn't know if anybody else heard the dogs, but I'm not going to say anything. I thought the dogs were. Whew, I was
You
wondering.
gotta tell me,
No, it's
because then
fine.
I can have my husband bring him into his room where he's doing his bicycle. He can take him back. I'm used to it.
I'm used to it now too. But Lucy brings up a great point. Like the women who don't hear the smoke detector. So, ladies, if you think you want to have, a husband, it takes work. It takes seriousness. It takes commitment. We have fun here, but we are very serious about the sense of urgency, because the trend is not in our favor. The men are basically saying we're sick of it, and they are going to require what they're going to require. But even though it's a labor of love, it's definitely a labor. I think, like Kevin said, we're better together. And if you are willing to do the work, especially in the beginning, the payoff is so great. Don't get fooled by these, single jet setting auntie, women. Like someone said here in the chat, someone said here in the chat, they don't show the women crying alone at night. And I don't relish that. I don't want to see any woman realize that that door has shut, because it's very scary to think about, finishing your life and nobody really cared if you ate today, if you were, do you have your medication? It's the holidays. It can be really bleak, but it doesn't have to be. So, again, I encourage you all to watch this episode and prioritize relationships. There are good men out here who want good women, and there are good women out here who want good men. So, find yours. And, like Kevin said, get on down the path. Even though he is gone, his message still lives on, and that's what we continue here. So the Wives Club is here for you all every week, usually Fridays, but the first Friday of every month, the channel puts out new content or a new edit of his content. So just stay tuned. We probably won't be here next Friday at 9 p.m. We may do another day or another time, but usually we're here every Friday night for you. Lucy, would you say anything to close us out?
And young ladies, stay off of dating apps. Go out there and start talking to people. Look at people in the eyes. Smile. Walk around, taking, just looking at the beauty of life. When a man sees you smiling and enjoying life, they are closer to approach you than if you're walking around like you're going to cause chaos. Smile, be happy, enjoy the life that you have, because men are watching, and that possible, knight in shining armor might be looking at you at a certain time when you're smiling, and that could be the opportunity. Stay off those social media apps and all of that technology stuff, because that's not real. Learn how to talk to someone, learn how to look at people in the eyes, and start a conversation out there. And this is coming from the introvert that does not like small chat, small talk. But you learn the more you talk. I know, the more you talk to people, the more you start learning how to ask those questions and have them talk to you, and you listen.
I couldn't agree more. So if Lucy said it, you know it's important. All right, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for supporting. We love the comments in the chat, whether you're one of our returning subscribers, or we saw some new people in the chat tonight as well. So we will be back. Lucy and I will be with you Wednesday. We are going back to our Risatisa saga now that the finishing school graduation celebration is done. But you can find us on the Wives Club, my channel, or Lucy's channel. So until then, yes, everybody have a wonderful weekend. Thank you all so much. We appreciate it. Absolutely. We got to make sure we take care of you all, because you take care of us, and keep this a safe space where we can always remember Kevin. All right, everyone. Until next time. Adios.
Adios.